plans for a jewelry box. Now, this obviously here is the box itself, and there's our coving. I think we're going to do a cherry edging on top of the box walls or sides itself. Some molding down here that we'll go through after in an upcoming video. The lid, we're going to get a tad fancy, simple construction as long as you take your time, measure twice, and make sure you do your cuts properly. Be cherry ash and cherry ash, all cut on 45 miters, meeting to a middle where they'll all line up. Then we'll have a cherry face here, which will have an ash kind of frame around this inlay, which will sit back on a rabbet, which seems complicated, but when you see it done, it's really not, as long as you take your time. 2 separate boxes, well 3. The main box that goes at the bottom, you can see the different dividers, and then also the walls of the sides of these trays are similar to the box with the coving, of course not quite so large. And then there'll be 2 of these boxes that sit on top of this one. And with that, these will be lined in velvet. An idea of how the structure of this lid will work. You have your cherry frame around the outside, and then there's a rabbet that the ash frame sits inside. A little ledge basically is a rabbet for this to sit on, and then on top of that will be a small piece of 1/4-inch plywood where these inlays will sit on top of. So there it is. Okay, I don't know if you can see me good enough because I have my camera, we're using the back camera, so I have a bright light in my eyes. But we're going to take a look at the table saw here, so I'll flip the camera around and give you a shot. Okay, so as you can see, we have a just a board here that's serving as our rip fence, but as you can see, it is not straight. It is, well, it's on an angle. I couldn't tell you exactly what angle, maybe 25 to 30 degrees, something like that. And I just got it clamped to my table saw so that it's not going to move on us. As you can see on my board here, I've got marks, and this is the area where I want the coving cut to be. So with the saw blade on a 45-degree angle and our fence here on a slight angle, what we're going to do is make sure we have the right side. So, see, wrong side. How did I have this? Here, this way. There we go. I'm going to go around to the other side here so you can see this. Now, when I set up my fence, what I did is I decided on my board where I wanted this coving to be. And it doesn't have to be precise as far as with your board, because what I did is oversize my board by 1/4 of an inch. So even if it's not exact, I can always come back and actually trim the edges to the exact width I want. So what I have is a 1/2 inch here and 1.5 inches, I believe, on this side. And all I did is, this is the side, I marked it right here, that's the side I'm running against the fence, and I moved my blade until it touched my line, so I know that's where the cut's going to start. And as this feeds over, you can see it starts to continue the cut over. So we're going to keep raising our blade up. We'll make a few passes, raise our blade up until we have the depth that we want, and hopefully we will have the correct size of coving that we need. So I will put the camera back on the shelf, okay, make sure everything's set up and good to go, and we will start cutting this coving. Okay, I just thought I'd show this because I did actually mess this up somehow when I was putting it on, or I moved it somehow. Anyways, point is, make sure you double check, triple check everything. As you can see, I have my square up there, and I am just going to measure the front of the blade and the back of the blade and try to make sure it corresponds as closely as possible to where I have my marks on my wood. With that said, that's about all you need to know, just double check. Okay. Move our stuff out of the way. Safety glasses, like Norb Abram always says. Safety first, always read and understand the instructions that come with your tools, but remember this, there is no more important safety device than these. Just turn the vacuum on. Now here I'm actually making the first part of the coving cut. I am going to use my push stick and make sure that it is firmly pushed up against my fence as I push it over. Once I make one pass, I'll make a cleanup pass just to make sure it's taken off as much material as possible. And then I will go to the next piece, do the same process, and then I'll raise my blade up a turn or two and repeat the process, and I will continue to repeat that process until I have the desired depth of my coving cut. Not quite at my 1/2 inch mark on this end, and I'm just about at my 3/8 as far as how deep this goes. So as you can see, there's a nice parabolic shape to that, and it goes all the way down. Unfortunately, the only way to really clean this up is to use sanding it by hand. Start with 60 or 80 grit sandpaper, get most of it out, and then work up to 120, and you'll be left with a really nice smooth finish. It looks like the rest of the board, but you get that beautiful shape. Okay, so we are going to take the next step into our jewelry box with the coving parabolic shape carved into our sides and our trim. Now this is a piece of cherry that I am going to be using for our molding that'll go along the bottom of the box, just for a little extra style and flair and whatever you want. The idea here is to mill our stock to the proper dimensions that we need to work with. So to start with, I'll rip the width of the board to 2 inches, and the final width will only be about 1 inch, maybe 1 1/8 inches, but this gives me a little more material to work with while I design the actual shaping of the molding for the box, base molding. And after I do the 2 inch rip, then I will flip the board upright and cut the 1/2 inch width of our board down, so that when we put it on our box, it'll only come off of the box 1/2 inch. And by doing this, we have a little extra material to work with while we're shaping it, and then we can rip it down to our final width after all is said and done. And here is the same idea as the cherry, except this is a piece of ash stock that we're going to rip down and use for our inner box tray sides, well, the trays inside the box. Same process, same idea. Yeah, so hope you learned something from this too. Pretty straightforward here. I'm just going to clean up the rough cut off of the table saw from when we cut our width of our molding here, and just remember, push sticks, keep your hands away from the blades at all times, and also remember your safety glasses. Just apply a good firm pressure down on your saw and move it forward over the blades, and repeat until you get the desired width of your workpiece, or just when it's all cleaned up nice, whatever comes first. KC WOODWORKS for you. I hope you enjoyed this build. Well, the first portion of this build. As I said, this is the first video in a series for our jewelry box. Also, it is the first build video for this channel, KC WOODWORKS for you. I hope it has inspired you to go out and try something new, or at least try to come up with this project on your own. Maybe throw in a few twists of your own. We haven't really gone very far. I know it seems like it was a long video, but I wanted to put a lot of information in there for you. After all, this is the point of the channel. Now, what we did cut, we have our sides for our boxes, again, with the parabolic shape. We have our trim molding for the base of the box. So basically, it will be something like this, but this will be cut to its final width, so it won't be quite nearly as tall. And then I didn't film it. What can I say? It is the same process. You saw it, and I think you guys are much smarter than us YouTubers give you credit for. So I think you can extrapolate how I did these pieces for our trays within the box itself by what I showed you with these other pieces. Again, I just wanted to go over how you make these cuts on the table saw, and then you square them back up with the jointer, which would be much easier with the planer, but again, I don't have it right now. So we do what we can, right? Right. There are many ways to accomplish different goals within the wood shop, and you don't need big fancy tools. There are many ways to cut, to do a rip cut. You can use different saws. You can use different techniques. There is a variety of things out there. Get creative. Do some research. Do test cuts. Figure things out. Make the wood work for you. After all, that is the whole point of this. So, with all that said, please subscribe to our channel so you can catch the next portion in our series on this jewelry box. And don't forget to like this video. Leave your comments below so you can tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you would like to see in the future. And check us out on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, all of it. Because there are past builds on there that you haven't seen before because I didn't have this channel going yet. So with that said, subscribe.